It started on a Thursday. Heat rippled across Raventon's cracked sidewalks. Cicadas screamed from the trees. And down Main Street, the rumble of engines cracked through the stillness like thunder in a church. For motorcycles, dust trailing behind them like smoke. People stopped what they were doing, paused their sweeping, their chatting, their quiet, and watched as they rolled in. At the front, a man with thick arms and darker intentions. He had the kind of face you didn't trust. A face that smiled too quickly and watched too long. He wore mirrored sunglasses, a sun-bleached bandana, and confidence like a weapon. The patch on his vest read Dane. They parked outside the old gas station that everyone called Leech's, though Leech himself had died in '98. The men spread out, laughing too loud, walking like they owned it all. Dane didn't laugh. He scanned. Across the street, Evelyn Knox sat on the bench outside the pharmacy, her walker folded beside her. She wore a faded floral blouse and thick-soled shoes. In her lap, a paper bag with her heart pills and a small tin of lemon drops. She looked harmless. Dane locked eyes with her. She didn't flinch. He crossed the street. "Hot one today, Grandma," he said. Evelyn didn't look at him. Just unwrapped a lemon drop, popped it into her mouth, and said, "You're not from here." Dane chuckled. "We're just passing through. Thought we'd bring some color to this sleepy little picture." She glanced up, her eyes sharp, not amused. "You brought something, all right. Just not color." He leaned in. "You got something to say?" "I know who you are," she said. His grin faded. A pause stretched between them. Then he laughed, loud, sudden mocking. "Lady, I don't even know who I am half the time." "You know exactly who you are," Evelyn said. "And I know what name you used before Dane Rourke." A few people across the street had started to turn their heads. Dane's jaw flexed. "You're confused." "I'm not," she replied. "But you're about to be." He stepped back, muttering something under his breath. Turned and walked away, pretending not to care. But he looked back twice. The town didn't see Evelyn leave the bench. But later, she was at Davis Grocery. No walker this time. Just her and a folder tucked under one arm. The folder was thick, worn. And when Sheriff Nolan Breck walked through the automatic doors, sweating and annoyed, she handed it to him. "What's this?" he asked. "Proof," she said. He opened it. His face changed. "Where did you get?" "Doesn't matter," Evelyn interrupted. "What matters is that man across the street is not Dane Rourke. His name is Quentin Rell, and he's been wanted since 2003. You sure about this?" Nolan's voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm not in the habit of being unsure." Outside, the bikers were gathering again. Laughing. Loud. Too loud. Evelyn stood near the checkout, calm. Nolan left through the side exit. What happened next went faster than anyone expected. Within minutes, the sheriff walked across the parking lot with two deputies. They didn't draw weapons, but they looked ready to. Nolan asked the man called Dane to come with him. "Is this a joke?" Dane said. "No. This is Raventon," Nolan replied. The man hesitated. His crew shifted behind him. Then Evelyn stepped outside. "She's the one," Dane said, pointing. "She's lying. This is harassment. She used to work for the government," a woman whispered near the produce bins. "I heard she cracked something big years ago," someone else muttered. That's when the phones came out. Cameras up. The crowd grew quiet. Dane's eyes flicked from face to face. His crew didn't move. Not toward him. Not away. Just still. Nolan took a step closer. "Let's go. You'll have a chance to speak." Dane turned to Evelyn. She didn't look smug. She didn't even look angry. She looked sorry. And that's what cracked him. He walked to the cruiser. Didn't say a word. The town didn't clap. They just watched. Evelyn went home. Back on her porch, the same rocking chair. The same view of her rose bushes. Her walker folded beside her untouched. Her hands trembled, just a little, when she picked up her tea. But her eyes stayed fixed on the horizon. The town began to buzz. By sunset, videos were circling. At the salon, dryers paused. At the barbershop, old men passed phones between chess moves. At the diner, someone said, she knew. She knew before anyone. But Evelyn didn't speak. She didn't answer the door when reporters came. She didn't post. She didn't explain. She just rocked. The next day, one of the bikers, young, pale, eyes darting, showed up alone. No vest. No bike. Just him. "I didn't know what he was," he said, standing at her gate. "Most people don't," Evelyn answered. "I left." "Then keep going," she said. "Do better with what you've learned." He nodded. Walked away. By the weekend, the bikes were gone. Sheriff Nolan stopped by. He stood awkwardly on her porch. You always been watching people like this? I don't watch. I remember. He chuckled. If you ever wanted. No, she said. I already did my time. He didn't ask again. That night, Evelyn's niece, Lena Boone, drove down from Lexington. She hadn't visited in months. She found Evelyn in the kitchen, barefoot, stirring a pot of soup. You just took down a gang leader, Lena said. I set the record straight, Evelyn replied. That's all. You never told me. About the army. The intelligence work. No one asked, she said. And I was busy making cornbread. Lena sat down, looked at her aunt like she'd never really seen her before. You really scared him. I wasn't trying to scare him. I just reminded him lies don't last. Later that night, Lena found an old box in the hall closet. Inside, faded files, clippings, a few medals. One said, Department of Defense, Commendation. She didn't ask about them. Evelyn didn't offer. But that night, something shifted in Raventon. People slowed down when they passed her house. A little more respectful. A little more aware. They didn't see a frail widow anymore. They saw a woman who had pulled a curtain back. Quietly, calmly, completely. But the peace didn't last. 3 nights later, a brick shattered her front window. No note. No message. Just glass. Nolan came the next morning. Could be someone still loyal to him. Or someone scared you no more. Evelyn didn't look surprised. They always think silence is weakness. Until it speaks. You want extra patrols? No. I want people to keep underestimating me. It's easier that way. Lena stayed the night. Slept on the couch with a baseball bat. Evelyn didn't argue. But in the early morning, Evelyn stood alone in her garden, clipping her roses, her eyes steady, her hands calm. Behind her, the gate creaked open. She didn't turn. You came back sooner than I thought, she said. A voice answered low, familiar. But not Dane. You were never supposed to talk. Evelyn turned. Her face didn't change, but her eyes narrowed. I never promised silence, she said. Then came the sound of a car engine, cutting through the morning calm. Fast. Closer. Lena's voice yelled from the porch. Auntie, get down. And then nothing. Just silence. Just light. Just the smell of cut roses on the wind. If you're enjoying this so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps us grow and lets us keep bringing you more content like this. Plus, you won't want to miss what we have coming next. Trust me, it's going to be good. The town of Grenshaw didn't sleep that night. Word had already spread before the sheriff's cruiser turned off Main Street. A dozen cell phone videos. Hushed retellings. The slow, almost reverent pacing of disbelief. Henrietta Vale had brought down a man with a glance and a name. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Inside the county holding cell, Dane Rourke wasn't yelling. He wasn't pleading. He was smiling. Sheriff Breck stood outside the bars, arms crossed, watching him like he might grow fangs. Something about Rourke's calm was wrong. You're awfully relaxed for a man facing federal time, Breck said. Rourke shrugged. You think this is about me? Breck leaned in. We've got files. Photos. Footage. And the woman who named you as Clearance I didn't even know existed. So yeah, I think this is about you. Rourke chuckled. Then you don't know her half as well as you think. She didn't come after me for justice. She came because something scared her worse than I ever could. Breck stiffened. That hit a nerve. What are you talking about? He asked, quieter now. She didn't come out of retirement because of me, Rourke said. She came out because someone else did. Henrietta Vale wasn't sleeping either. She sat on her porch, tea long gone cold, eyes fixed on the darkened treeline behind her rose bushes. The air had shifted. She could feel it, like the way the ground gets too quiet before a quake. Her niece, Lena, was inside asleep. Or trying to be. The girl had questions. All of them fair. All of them dangerous. Henrietta had only given her half the truth. The rest? It was buried. For a reason. She hadn't said Dane Rourke's name because he was dangerous. She said it because his name was a sign. A flare in the dark. A signal that he might be coming next. At 3:17 a.m., a phone buzzed against hardwood. Henrietta moved faster than someone her age should have. She didn't check the number. She didn't have to. Speak, she said, answering. Code 7, the voice replied. Her spine went cold. Where? The voice hesitated. Locust Hollow, 2 miles east. Confirmed chatter in encrypted bursts. Same sequence from 98. Same pattern. She didn't breathe. Not for a full 3 seconds. Then, I'll handle it. Ma'am, you're not active. I said I'll handle it. She hung up and stood. Slowly. Calmly. She retrieved the metal box hidden beneath the floorboard inside her hall closet. The one Lena had never seen. Inside, one sealed envelope, a sidearm, and a key with no markings. Grenshaw was about to remember who Henrietta Vale used to be. At sunrise, Lena found her aunt gone. The walker was still by the door. That scared her more than anything else. On the table sat a note. Don't open the back bedroom. Not until I say. Lena stared at it for 5 minutes. Then she opened the door anyway. Inside was a room she never knew existed. Maps, photos, names, lines connecting one to the next. Surveillance footage, faces with slashed red tape across them. And in the middle, Dane Rourke's mugshot. Below it, in block print, diversion. Lena's stomach dropped. Her aunt hadn't taken Rourke down as a finale. She'd done it to buy time. Henrietta drove her rusted Ford through backroads no one used anymore. The fog rolled in thick near Locust Hollow, muting the light and muffling the birds. She pulled up to the old grain mill and waited. She didn't knock. She didn't call out. Instead, she lit a match and held it in the air. 3 seconds. Then out. 2 matches. Same thing. On the third, a shadow moved behind the mill. A man stepped out. She hadn't seen him in 20 years. Not since Beirut. Not since the betrayal. Rhodes, she said. He smiled. I hoped it wouldn't be you. She raised the pistol. You always hope wrong. Back in town, Breck was pacing. The file Henrietta had handed him hours ago wasn't a file. It was a warning. A trail of names tied to an old Black Ops unit called Sentinel Cross. Every name had a red line through it. Except one. Rhodes Cantrell. CIA burn list. Rogue operative. Dead, supposedly. But Breck knew better now. Henrietta hadn't come to take down Dane. She'd come to stop Rhodes from finishing what he started. And Rourke. Just a pawn. A noisy, dangerous pawn used to flush her out of hiding. Breck slammed the phone down. He was out of his depth. At the grain mill, the standoff didn't break. Henrietta held the gun steady. Rhodes didn't flinch. You shouldn't have come, he said. I didn't have a choice. He nodded like that made sense. We were supposed to be ghosts. You broke that when you gave your name to a sheriff. No, she said. You broke it when you started killing the rest of us. He laughed low, humorless. They were compromised. They were retired. Same thing, he snapped. Retirement is just permission to forget. And I don't forget, Henrietta. Neither did she. She pulled the trigger. The gun jammed. Rhodes didn't move. He just stepped forward, hand in his coat. But she'd already anticipated that. From her belt, she pulled a small black disc and tossed it to the ground. EMP burst. His earpiece fizzled. His comms died. The lights in the mill flickered out. He stopped cold. She smiled, finally. Some of us kept our tools sharp. Lena was driving now, Henrietta's spare keys in hand, heading toward the coordinates she'd found scribbled on a page labeled fail-safe. She didn't know what she'd find. But her aunt hadn't just left the house. She'd walked into something she couldn't walk back from. And Lena couldn't let her go alone. As she passed the old Grange Hall, she noticed something odd. A black SUV. Parked. Running. The window lowered just slightly. She hit the gas. Too late. The SUV pulled out behind her. Tail lights vanished from her mirror as another car blocked her from the front. She was boxed in. At the grain mill, Rhodes dropped his useless device. Henrietta kicked it aside. You came to finish the job, she asked. No, he said. I came to warn you. She didn't lower the gun. You're lying. Am I? He reached slowly into his coat again. She raised the pistol higher. He pulled out a file. Thin. Stamped. Government seal. I'm not your enemy, he said. She took it, eyes narrow. The contents made her blood run cold. Grenshaw was never the target. It was the test site. Rhodes hadn't been hunting operatives. He'd been trying to stop a sleeper network. Ones they'd both helped build years ago under different names. Names now being activated. Henrietta flipped the last page. There, in crisp digital ink, was a familiar face. Not Rhodes. Not Rourke. Lena. Henrietta staggered. No, she whispered. That's not possible. It wasn't supposed to be her, Rhodes said. But someone got into the archives. Someone set her up. And someone wanted Henrietta to be the one to take her down. At the side of the road, Lena was hauled from the car by 2 men in tactical gear. They didn't speak. She struggled, kicked, tried to scream. One jabbed a needle into her arm. She went still, then limp. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was the insignia on the man's collar. 3 interlocked rings. No name. No rank. Just a symbol. And it burned into her memory. Rhodes and Henrietta watched the dawn rise through the cracked siding of the mill. "I don't know how deep this goes," he said. "But if she's on that list—" "She's not," Henrietta snapped. "She's not one of them." "Then why put her there?" he asked. "Why bait you like this?" Henrietta didn't answer. Because she already knew. There was only one person who would dig that deep. One person who'd known her past and Lena's bloodline. And he was supposed to be dead. Sheriff Breck received a package delivered by hand. No return address. Inside, a flash drive. A single line of text. "Play this when the sky turns red." He looked out his office window. Clouds were already shifting. A strange, low hum buzzed through the air. He inserted the drive. Static. Then a voice. Henrietta's. "If you're hearing this, I've failed." Lena woke in a white room. Strapped to a chair. A mirror across from her. She couldn't see through it, but she knew someone watched. The door opened. A man stepped in. Not military. Not police. He wore a plain suit and smiled like he owned the sky. "Miss Boone," he said. "Let's talk about your inheritance." She didn't answer. He continued. "You see, your aunt wasn't just an agent. She was a builder. And you, dear girl, are the last blueprint." Henrietta stood alone at the edge of a field. The sky behind her burned faint orange. She knew what the message meant now. The real war hadn't begun. But the first shot had been fired. And it had come from inside her own blood. She turned slowly toward the horizon. "No more running," she whispered. Then she vanished into the trees. A note arrived at the sheriff's desk 2 days later. No signature. Just 5 words written in sharp black ink. "The girl has been activated." The message had been handwritten. No signature. Just 6 words scribbled in tight, slanted print. "You didn't bury him deep enough." Henrietta Vale stood frozen in her kitchen, fingers curled around the slip of paper like it might catch fire. Lena, still near the back door, didn't say a word. The silence that settled between them wasn't ordinary. It was thick, almost weighted, as if the past itself had stepped into the room. Henrietta moved first. She folded the note, tucked it into the front pocket of her cardigan, and poured herself a cup of coffee with hands too steady for a woman just threatened. Lena watched her aunt with narrowed eyes. "Tell me everything," Lena said finally. Henrietta sat at the small kitchen table. She didn't look up. "Not yet. But you'll know when it's time." Outside, Grenshaw had not yet woken. Mist clung to the street like it was hiding something. Across the road, a curtain twitched in the McGraw's front window. Someone was watching. Henrietta knew better than to believe in coincidence. By noon, word had spread that something was stirring again. The cruiser from Mississippi had never arrived. Dane Rourke, or whatever name he'd worn last, had vanished en route. No struggle. No signs. The sheriff's deputy driving him swore the back seat was locked the whole time. But when they stopped for gas just outside Riverbend County, the cruiser was empty. He was gone. Henrietta stood on her porch, arms crossed, watching as Sheriff Dalton's patrol car pulled up in front of her house. He didn't waste time. "Henrietta," he said, stepping out. "You need to see this." He handed her a photo taken from a highway surveillance camera. The timestamp was 15 minutes after the gas station stop. The image was grainy but clear enough. It showed Dane walking calmly along the shoulder of the highway. No handcuffs, no bruises, a backpack slung over one shoulder, and a smirk that Henrietta could see even through the fuzz. He was smiling. "How the hell did he get out?" Lena muttered from behind her. Henrietta's face didn't change. "He had help." Dalton looked at her, frowning. "What makes you so sure?" "Because men like him never work alone," she said. "And because he's never smiled like that unless he's about to come home." Dalton's jaw tensed. "You think Grenshaw's his home?" Henrietta didn't answer. She was already turning toward the rose bushes. That night, Grenshaw didn't sleep. People locked their doors, drew blinds, loaded old rifles, and double-checked padlocks. The gas station closed early. Even the diner shut its neon sign off by dusk. Henrietta stayed awake, seated on her porch with an old revolver in her lap. Not the kind you show off. The kind you keep when you know how to use it. Lena came out just after midnight, wrapped in a blanket. "Is he coming here?" she asked. Henrietta nodded slowly. He never liked leaving things unfinished. Lena hesitated. "Auntie, who exactly is he? I mean, really?" Henrietta looked straight ahead. He's the part of my past I buried too late. Lena frowned. But you said he was part of a case. He wasn't the case, Henrietta said. He was the mistake. Years ago, Henrietta had been part of a classified task force, something the government didn't advertise, a unit built to dismantle operations too deep, too dirty, too protected to touch. Dane wasn't just a name on a file. He was inside the program, embedded, recruited young, trained to be invisible. But somewhere along the way, he twisted, turned rogue, started using what he learned against the people who taught him. Henrietta had been the one to track him, the one who called the shot that ended his spree. Except the shot never landed where it should have. She lied on her report, said he died in an explosion during a warehouse takedown. But he didn't. He ran. She let him go, not out of mercy but guilt. And now he was back. By dawn, there were tire tracks leading up to the old sawmill bridge. Sheriff Dalton found them. No plates, no ID, just a half-burned notebook thrown into the creek below. Inside were names. Henrietta's name. Sheriff Dalton's. Even Lena's. But the most chilling thing was what wasn't burned. A list of dates. Future dates. And today's date was circled in red. Dalton called Henrietta immediately. "Where are you?" he asked. "Home," she said. "Stay there." "I'm coming." "No," Henrietta replied calmly. "He's not coming for you. He's coming for me." She was right. At exactly 4:12 p.m., a black truck with no tags pulled into her driveway. Slow, deliberate. Henrietta stepped off the porch, revolver in hand, but not raised. She knew he wouldn't shoot her first. He needed something more than revenge. He needed her to see what he'd become. Dane stepped out of the truck, no longer the swaggering biker. He wore dark clothes, a clean jacket, boots without dust. He looked like he'd never left government training. "Henrietta," he said, smiling like they were old friends. "Dane, you never were very good at hiding." "I didn't try," she said. He laughed once. "No, you wanted me to find you." "No," she said again, slower. "I wanted to know if you'd changed." He stepped forward, hands at his sides. "People like us don't change. We just wait." "For what?" He smiled wider. "For a chance to rewrite the ending." Henrietta didn't flinch. "You already wrote yours." "I'm just editing it now," he said, reaching into his coat pocket. But before his hand reached the grip of the pistol hidden inside, a loud click snapped from behind the rose bushes. Sheriff Dalton, and 3 deputies with rifles aimed straight at Dane's back. "You're not the only one who knows how to wait," Henrietta said quietly. Dane didn't move. "I could have killed you," he said. "You still could," Henrietta said. "But it won't mean a thing. Not now." He turned slowly, hands raised. But just before the cuffs snapped shut, he looked over his shoulder. "You think you've stopped something?" he said. Henrietta didn't answer. "Grenshaw's sitting on more than one ghost," Dane hissed. "You think I'm the last? I'm just the one you could still see." Dalton shoved him toward the cruiser. Henrietta stood watching as the lights faded into the distance. That night, she didn't return to the porch. She stayed in the garden, digging. Just past the edge of the roses, she found it. A box she'd buried decades ago. Inside, old IDs, maps, letters from people long gone. A black and white photo of Dane when he was still young, still innocent. But something new was inside now, tucked beneath the photo. Another note, not in her handwriting. One down, 3 more watching. Henrietta stared at it for a long time. Then, without a word, she burned the contents of the box in a metal barrel out back. Lena watched from the window. She didn't ask. She knew now that some answers didn't protect people. They only infected them. By morning, the town was quiet again. But the silence felt different. Not peaceful. Tense. As if something still lingered. And in the town square, tucked into the community board between the church picnic flyers and missing pet notices, someone had pinned a fresh slip of paper. "We don't forget. We don't forgive. And we never left." Henrietta passed by on her way to the post office. She didn't stop to read it. She didn't have to. She already knew what it said. And she knew what it meant. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But this time, she wasn't going to wait.